But right now, I do want to take just a moment and I want to introduce our next guest. And I am very pleased and honored to have Dr. Xion Prem with us. She holds a doctorate in psychology with an emphasis on transpersonal. Her lifelong study and exploration in personal transformation through dance, dreams, art, yoga, and meditation have led her to various certifications. She has been presenting at international conferences and has been teaching and mentoring over 20 years in Europe, India, and the United States. She enjoys supporting peers and uplifting clients in becoming healers themselves. So I'd like to go ahead and bring up Dr. Xion Prem. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much, Sheila. I really appreciate you setting up this conference and bringing us all together. It's a true honor to be here. As I really experience, as we come together, we actually create a grid on the planet. And that's what's really important right now. So if I tend to whisper at some point, please give me a sign, okay?
Yes.
Right now, I just really would like to invite everyone to come into your heart so we can rejoin in our hearts. So we can actually set that grid of light through our hearts, through compassion and unconditional love. So if you have gotten into your mind and started thinking about your own story, I invite you to come back into your heart. Just really feel the gratitude inside of yourself, compassion. If you have any difficulties, think about something you love or someone you love. Maybe a spot in nature. Yeah, there we are. Thank you. Just notice how we actually settle in and ground. So I'm a walk-in, and it's the first time for me to actually speak about it publicly. I've been very blessed that the prior soul was very experienced, was already a multidimensional practitioner, has worked with clients, has been trained immensely in ancient scriptures, ancient knowledge, the pathway towards enlightenment. And she was all about wanting to be like liberated, moksha, as they say in Sanskrit. And so that light body process towards enlightenment is we aim for ascension, and we do a lot of practices, which is not necessary, but it really helps to purify the body. And then once we reach that light body, that enlightenment, that self-realization, we actually also then come back as light body beings to still purify this body. And then the next aim of enlightenment, self-realization, is to actually take this body into light. And in Tibetan Buddhism, they call that a rainbow body. So beyond self-realization, there's a whole another pathway of really taking the body into light. And depending on the philosophy you are attuned with, there are different levels towards enlightenment. And I don't really find it's too important to get into that, but yeah, Vedanta has a lot of details, Buddhism has details. What's important is the actual experience of that, what happened in my case. So she actually got liberated, and then we switched. So I came in. She could have come back as a light body being, continuing the journey, but there was a prior agreement for me to come in and continue that journey to take this body into light. And that's a work in process. I have to admit, it takes a lot of work. The advantage of me coming in as a different soul is I'm not identified with any of the trauma that happened in this body. So she had the challenge that she was a healer, she was helping people, she was teaching, and she had to heal this body from immense trauma, sexual trauma. And being of service at the same time. And she wrote several books that I still have to publish, that she left behind, that we partly wrote together. In my rare case, we had a parallel time in body. So while we did the doctorate and did all the writings, we were parallel in the body. And all the walk-ins I've talked to, it's seemingly a rather rare experience, since I've never actually had a physical body. This was very helpful for me. I could just learn how to operate here. I mean, they're just practical things of cooking, driving. You wouldn't even imagine how much it takes to learn that, because you come in as a child. Most of us come in as a child, and we learn all those things through our parents. But if we come in as a walk-in and we haven't had prior experiences in this physical human realm, we still have to learn all of that. So that takes a while. And as much as I was honestly grateful when she left, because then I could actually live more what I'm here for, or like, I mean, just simple things. I could eat spicy food because she didn't like spices. So it really comes down to just simple things like that. But at the same time, I noticed I really missed her because I couldn't ask any more questions of how do I do this, how do that, like how do humans do this, you know? And it actually surprised me of how much I was relating to her as a soul sister on that level. And it might sound odd to have two souls in that body, but it actually gets more weird because she was prepared for that as a teenager. She read a bunch of novels around many souls in one body. And I actually I released 3 souls out of this body once I was in. So we were actually 4 souls for quite a while. And that really explains of how much this lifetime, like, let me just say, I was able to accomplish here, of enormous certifications, huge amounts of clients, training teachers, mentoring people, writing books, because it's a lot on one soul. And once I saw there were other souls helping while also healing this body, that started making total sense. So now I'm on my own, and it feels good, but it's also work. And I'd just love to talk about or invite you into the process of what it takes to clean up a body, because in a way, most of us have to do that because life has experiences that create imprints in our physical system, because the body is actually our subconscious. And so we have these imprints, and it might just be as like, oh, someone drove onto the street and you almost crashed them and you're a little bit shocked. So animals just, they race or they shake, and they shake it off. So we humans are trained to just push it aside. But then it stays in our system, and even these little traumatic experiences, depending how resilient we are, can stay in our cellular system, and it's so important to clean them up. And the more we clean them up, I mean, what I've noticed, I get the feedback I keep looking younger. So it's very amazing because I don't carry any emotional baggage in my system anymore. And I still discover surprises. I mean, just honestly, yesterday, I was in a group, and one of my colleagues went like, "Hey, what's really going on? Like, why are you so resistant of cleaning your car? What's really going on?" And he kept digging. I was like, "It's just not pleasant, you know." Because I'd like to also go underneath the car and spray oil, make sure it doesn't rust. And so I do all the guy thing myself. But I don't really like it. And so I pushed it ahead of me, and he kept digging and digging and digging until I finally went like, "Oh, because of my childhood, blah, blah." And I just went into tears and went, wow, I had no idea there was uh, like seeming traumatic experience in my system, because my parents didn't feed me food when I was hungry because we had set meal times. And something as simple like that turned out as, you know, well, I'm pushing it, like I didn't want to clean my car. I mean, you wouldn't ever think that's related. But because of who I am, I can just go like, oh, that's fascinating. Let me cry the tears. Like I celebrate the release that's happening in the moment. And then 10 minutes later, it's done. So, but if my colleague hadn't been pushing me, I would have totally not gone there. So that's where we can help each other with like having sessions or being in groups, because we can kind of poke each other in these ways of like, hey, what's really going on? What's standing behind it? Because meditation practices and movement practice are amazing, and I highly recommend them. But if we actually are with one another, one on one or in groups, we can actually support holding a field for another. And then these things can come up safely and we can release them. So, personally, I'm a huge fan of giving and receiving sessions still. I mean, I still am in my mentoring support groups for my own evolution, or rather, not my own, but for the evolution of this body. Because if I really want to take the body into mere light, it's going to be a process, and it's going to be like that until I can actually walk through a wall like the ancient yogis did, when I'm just really light and I'm so sustained in my light body experience that I know there is no matter. And as far as I know there is no matter, still at this point, I mean, I hit my toe against the table and it hurts. So it's going to take a process to purify the system enough until this body really can become light and we can walk on earth in this dimension as light body beings. Then we have purified the system enough, and then miracles like that can happen, like walking through a wall. But I'm not there yet, or this body isn't there yet. And at the same time, I'm very aware of who I am as a light body being in this realm. And I can do this process with the awareness without being attached to it. I'm just going to pause here because that's been a lot of information. And let's just recenter back into the heart and back into compassion. And even though I'm aiming for that rainbow light body, at the same time, it's not really important. And so that there's this paradox of not being special as being a walking, or being special with different capacities, because that again would create an identity. It would enforce a personality. If you really want to walk towards enlightenment, we need to get out of all of our attachments and all of our identities, including the identity of being a walk-in, which doesn't mean I wouldn't be talking about it, because I mean, I'm also still a woman, I'm in a female body, but I'm not identified really with being a woman. So there's this very slight difference of knowing who you are, or knowing what I'm projecting outwards as we are interacting and interfacing, and at the same time not being identified or being attached to it. So the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali and the ancient scriptures, they really talk about the detachment process. Can we detach more and more and focus on the breath, and then become the breath, and then realizing the thoughts that move through our mind are actually not our thoughts. And then beyond that, you realize, oh, there is actually no personal mind. There's a collective mind, and then there are collective thoughts moving through the collective mind, and then we attach to it and think like, oh, it's mine and this is who I am. So that's where the identification process starts, and the consensus reality kicks in. And so suddenly we are in this consensus reality of, oh yeah, I am a woman and this is who I am, and don't ask me to change because I've always been like that. And we get defensive and we start like feeling like shame, and we blame each other, and that's really unhealthy. The colleague before talked about forgiveness, and that starts within. Can I forgive myself to ever have gotten into any uncomfortable situation? So there's forgiving the other, especially if you've gotten through traumatic experiences, and you've gotten into like an identity of, oh, I've been a victim. Can you forgive the other, but also can I forgive myself of okay, I happen to get into that experience on a karmic level. And then beyond that, beyond forgiveness, there's that gratitude. Can I actually develop a level of gratitude from that meta perspective of multi-incarnate lifetimes? Oh, this happened because there was a learning process here. And we never really know why things are happening. And at the end, it's all a learning process. It's all here for us to wake up and to wake up back to love, to compassion, to that unconditional existence of oneness and unconditional love. And I know questions are set for the end, but since I've talked a lot, I would invite questions. Sheila, is there any questions that are up to now?
Here, just a moment. Says, could you please share with us the steps for how we can clear on a cellular level?
Yes. So it's not done in an hour, I have to admit, but you have to be willing to invite emotions, as uncomfortable as they might be. And you also have to be willing to invite past memories to pop back up. And if memories have been very severe, I really would honor having someone hold the space for you. So you're not drowning in the experience, but it can actually move like up and out, because we don't want it to circulate. What often happens in like typical therapy, we circulate the whole trauma because we keep talking about the same thing. What we want is that the memories come up and then release them back to the light. So if someone can hold space for you in that way, that's going to be way more powerful, because then it's actually done. And often it comes in steps. So where you have like one angle of a memory or another angle of a memory. And whenever the soul feels safe and held in love, so often in a very loving relationship, these memories come up because there's love, because then the soul knows, oh, I'm held in a loving field. So if you can be held in a loving field, that would be fortunate. And then let's just do a light body practice on a more energetic level. So I invite you to come back into your heart and just feel that compassion for yourself, remembering something you love or someone. And then allowing light to enter your heart. You can envision a ball of light or a crystal of light. And then just allow that light, and I'm pointing onto my heart chakra, not the physical heart, but the heart chakra in the center of your chest, allowing that ball of light to get bigger with just that compassion for yourself. You can envision a ball of light, particles of light. It could be white or golden, or both, or rose gold. And then allow that light to expand upwards and downwards, up to your throat chakra and down to your solar plexus, allowing that light to expand into one big, beautiful ball of light. And then allow that to expand up to your third eye and down to your second, your sexual chakra, into one big, beautiful ball of light. All the way up and down, or one big crystal of light. And then allow that to expand to your crown chakra and your root chakra, into one big, beautiful ball of light, encompassing all your chakras into one unified field of light. Open your third eye and allow the beings that surround you right now to place a crystal into your third eye, an etheric crystal. And if you don't want to keep it, it'll vanish later on. But you can allow that etheric crystal into your third eye, activating your pineal gland, And anyone who will listen to this later will be able to go through the same process. Keeping the beautiful ball of light through your whole chakra system, feeling the crystal in your third eye, opening your crown chakra to your own higher spirit, allowing your own light to come into your system. And then move upwards to the chakras above your head by moving down through your legs, slowly encompassing your thighs with light, moving up at the same time, encompassing your knees with light, moving up at the same time into a big, beautiful ball of light. And then encompassing your calves, moving upwards at the same time. And then encompassing your feet. And then go beneath your feet, the chakra at the bottom of your auric field. And then above your head, the chakra at the top of your auric field into one beautiful ball of light. Underneath your auric field, I invite you to not actually link into the earth, especially for those of you who are walk-ins, but to go down from the bottom of your auric field and to go throughout the parallel hologram of the earth, embracing the earth, the spheres of light. For those of you who are not walk-ins, it might be useful to actually also have lines of light go down from your feet, as well as from your root chakra into the center of the earth. And you want to go deep enough to bypass anything that's happening on the planet to really connect to the energy of Earth itself, Mother Gaia. And then beneath your tailbone, there's another chakra, it's the Omega chakra. You take that upwards all the way through your spine, and then through your Alpha chakra and to the top of your auric field and through your own higher spirit. And you ground yourself into your own higher spirit all the way back to source. And then as you've unified your chakras into a beautiful ball of light, allow that light to really move through all your limbs. So that your whole body, or the cellular level of your body, is filled with sparkles of light in the color that's been coming to you. Yeah, all the way down to your toes and through your hair. And then envision a magenta flame at the bottom of your auric field to just move through your auric field and purify your aura. And through your body as well. So any residues that's ready to be released can just be released and be burned off and taken back to light. Yeah, so thank you for practicing with me. So that's a combination of several practices. The main unified chakra practice comes from Tashira Tashirin. She's a Vulcan. It's printed in the book What is Light Body. There's another Vulcan in her body now. Her name is Zaz, and she can be reached as well. And you can contact me or the Awakening Contest Network if you like the link to that. And then I've added practices I have from the Vedantic tradition, as well as practices that I have from the Xion star system. The third eye crystal is from the Xion star system. And then I also do work a lot with the Andromedan emissaries of light and the Pleiadian emissaries of light. So this has been a combination of practices. And you can do the whole practice. This will be recorded, will be out on YouTube and on the app and the website. Or you can also guide your own inner spirit if you're guided to be more detailed in some ways, or go shorter if you don't have time. So feel free to adjust it as needed. As I like to say, as on the go. I don't think there's any excuse not to meditate or have a practice every day. But if I only have 5 minutes, I do a 5-minute practice. If I have an hour, I do an hour practice. But I don't skip it. And that's the important part. So if we can purify our body, our cellular system on a daily basis, that's really useful. Because our bodies just hold a lot, and the older we get, the more we actually tend to stack up. So that's a good thing. But then also the planet is holding a lot, because I live in Hawaii, next door to Maui, what happened. And it was super, super intense. I felt the fear that was there. I felt all the souls leaving. I assisted with guiding them out. And so my system could feel what was happening in the field, so I picked up on the trauma. So I had to constantly kind of keep clearing my own system, because I also tend to take on karma, admittedly, and burn it through, as well as protect myself, but then also assist others. So as all these things are happening on the planet, the more these practices are important. Because it just going into the grocery store can just sometimes be overwhelming, and a lot because there are so many thoughts floating around and people holding their own worries. So we tend to pick up on that because we are sensitive, and so it's, besides putting up a protection, it's also good, like, oh, let's run the violet or magenta flame through my system again, because it's not mine in the first place. I had it during the pandemic. In the beginning, I would go to a drugstore just because I needed a hair tie or something. And suddenly I started coughing. I'm like, well, this is weird. Why do I have this throat thing going on? And then I noticed, like, someone in the aisle next to me is like, oh, they really have a cough going on. It must be their field. And I just picked up on that. And so I left the store, cleared my system, and it was gone. So I have that sensitivity, and some of you might too. And originally, I always thought, like, oh, it's mine, and I have to dig into the inner emotional work, and now I'm more like, no, it's not mine. Like, the first thought I have, like, it's not mine, let's clear it out. And if I just can't clear it out instantly, okay, then I have to dig in what's going on or what's the holding pattern. But as this planet gets denser and denser and more emotions are coming to the surface, it gets more and more important to keep anchoring yourself in light, to both clear out the past as well as constant worries that are happening. And the more we watch the news, the more we might pick up on all the worries that are all around us. So it's good to clear them out and no, it's not mine, it's not mine. Let that go. Okay, so I see the next speaker coming up. So I do have now 15 more minutes. So
I'm sitting here talking. Sorry. I
okay.
didn't realize I was on mute. Yes, you still have time.
Okay, good. Gonna keep going. Yeah, I just want to, let's come back to compassion, coming back into our hearts. because there's just so much fear on the planet right now. The more we can tap back into love, into compassion, the more we can hold and vibrate that field of compassion. And that's really essential. I mean, we've got the war going on right now in Europe. And so instead of getting upset about it or having opinions about it, because opinions are just part of the mind, it's so much more essential to come back into the heart. Because the more we can rest into the heart and rest in compassion, the more we can actually vibrate that field out. And I have an amazing kitten in my home, and she taps me if I have a negative thought running. So in the beginning, I had to really go like, no, don't bite into my heels, because that's what she tends to do. And then I realized like, oh, I'm carrying an energy that's not mine. I have to clear it out. It's like, oh, I actually had a negative thought in that moment. So I've been beyond my mental meditation yogic practice, gotten even more into the instant, oh, what am I thinking? You know, can I shift that thought, or can I drop it altogether? And I found that the easiest to shift negative thought patterns and negative emotions is devotion. And that's something that's coming from like Babaji and Mataji. They taught me that shifting emotions in other people, and including my own body, is going into devotion, because devotion is still an emotion. So it's often really difficult to go from thought to no thought, or from emotional processing to no emotions. I mean, where I come from, actually, we don't have emotions. It's very neutral. So it's been quite a learning process for me. So by going into devotion, you can shift your own emotions. So if I'm upset, let's say my cat jumps onto the kitchen counter and I don't like that, I used to get upset in the beginning. And then Mataji taught me, it's like, no, don't get upset, because then I just create upset energy. And so now I go into devotion. In the beginning, I started chanting with it. I like to do devotional chants. And then I would just lovingly pick her up, hold her against my heart, and set her down. So I would embrace her in love and still infuse the thought, no, you're not meant to do that. This is a no. But I would do it with love. And going into devotion, I could shift my own emotions from being upset, like, no, don't do this, to into devotion, and transmit with love, no, this is not what we are doing. You're meant to be on the ground. And for any moms out there, I think this is a really important message for parents, moms and dads. Instead of being upset with the child, can we come back into the heart, into unconditional love, and still tell children what's okay and what's not okay? You know, I mean, you don't want them like to put little rocks into their mouth and accidentally swallow them. That'd be dangerous. So it's a no. And at the same time, can we do that without shocking them? Can we say it with love? And so shifting from a fear moment or an upset moment or an overwhelm moment, like doing dishes used to be an overwhelm moment for me. And especially if you have children, you can be easily overwhelmed. It's a lot. I mean, it's a lot to have a household and a job and children. But going into devotion and chanting is very, very useful tool, or having devotional chants in the background. You can actually shift into devotion, and then you can lovingly get the message across and lovingly show physically what they're meant to do, and give a positive example through your own embodiment. And it's so important, because the children that are coming in now are the children that are here to save the planet. They are amazing beings of light coming in. They're amazing walk-ins coming in, beings of light, but they're also amazing children being born. So we don't want to offset them with our social dilemma of what we think this is right and this is wrong. Let them blossom. And the more we can lovingly tell them, okay, this is unhealthy, this is dangerous, and this is a good way to be, the more they can actually do their mission on earth, which is anchoring light and love. And I've noticed, like, coming back to my cat, she also jumps onto the dinner table, and I use the word like no. And then I realized that's a social convention. There's nothing wrong with her being on the dinner table if it's just me sitting there, because she doesn't know the difference with this table or that table. You know, it's just a piece of wood that's there and she's jumping on it. So that's the loving shift is important, but I also realize it's a social convention. It actually doesn't matter to me if she's on the dinner table. I'm clear with the kitchen counter, but honestly, it doesn't matter to me with the dinner table, but there's a social convention. So I had to look back into what's really okay with me, what's not okay with me, what's dangerous for her. I mean, next to the stove, that's dangerous, and what's not dangerous. And to get out of the social, oh, this is right, this is wrong. So it takes a lot to get out of the consensus reality, even with these simple things, and to come back to your own truth, to my own truth. What am I really comfortable with and what am I not okay with? And then I can communicate that with my cat in this case, or with other human beings, with your children. It's so essential to come back to our own truth and then to communicate it in a loving way. Because we do have things that we are like minefields, you know, we are not comfortable with it, even though it doesn't really matter. And so we have to communicate that. And then there are other things that, okay, it's really practical to drive on in the west, on the right side of the street for not causing any accidents. So there's a useful agreement. But then there are other useful agreements that appear to be useful in the beginning, and then the more we walk the path, it might not be as useful anymore. So I mean, it's good to wear clothes when you go out there, but if you've always told you're worthless and believe that, that's not useful. So we have to really differentiate of what's practical within this consensus agreement and what we can just throw out, you know, because we don't need it. Okay, I keep seeing there's questions popping into the chat.
Sure. Let
Like
me
to
go
invite more
ahead.
questions.
Yes, I'll go ahead and share one with you. Says the body that you walked in, did it have relatives? And if so, how do you relate to them? Thank you for being here. And this is from George.
Thank you, George. So yes, I have physical parents, biological parents, and a cousin and aunt and uncle. I relate to them very lovingly, and honestly, I don't think they would be able to handle the transformation. It's been a lot already that the prior soul went into yoga and meditation and lived in ashrams as a monastic. So that was a lot on them. So I don't want to push more onto them. So honestly, since I know that on this physical personality existence, I don't really exist. No one of us exists. Like there's no reality. There's no person here. We are just oneness, one energy, one consciousness. So because I know that, I can play with this character creation of what's the energy I put out, what's the character I put out. So when I communicate with my parents, I shift my energetic field into who she was. I actually put a layer of her character around my auric field, so that for them it still seems like it's her, because they're 80, they're gonna die probably very soon. I want to make that transition as easy as possible. So that's how I handle that. Yeah. Is there another
Beautiful.
question?
Thank you. Yes, just a moment. I'm looking. People are loving your presentation. Absolutely loving. Hold on. Let's see. I think that we're good with the questions.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
So let's just, how much more time do I have? 10 to 15 minutes?
About, yeah, but well, if we go on this time, about 4 minutes.
Okay.
And
So, yeah.
And then I was going to open it up for everyone. Phil will be coming back on. Actually, he's here. I'm just going to make him a panelist. Stone is still here. And so we'll just open up for a few more general questions from the audience. So thank you for taking us into this space.
Yeah, so for now, I invite you to come back into your heart. Let's just get out of the mind again and back into your heart center. And then in front of you, there's a field of compassion in front of you. So our chakra system is not just in the body, not just in the spine and not just in the body. Our chakra system is actually bigger than the physical body. So compassion actually lives as a ring around your heart center. So you can literally take yourself into that field of compassion that's always there. Yeah. And compassion for others is as important as that compassion, that self-love, like compassion for yourself, loving yourself, nurturing yourself, forgiving yourself. Feeling that field of love that we are right now creating. And as we are in this amazing field together as amazing souls, let's just blast Mother Gaia with light and our unconditional love. Just trusting that the light will go where it's needed right now. We are really strong together. When coming back into your own body and allowing that light and that love to encompass all your cells. So thank you for embarking on this journey with me. Trust your own inner guidance, like love yourself. That's what's most important. I am available for more questions, for sessions, for mentoring. I do train and certify practitioners. So you can either email me or email the network, and I think the emails will be forwarded. So thank you for being here. And if you're listening in the future, you will still be part of the field. It's set up that way.
Could you please share your website with everyone?
Yeah, so I have two. One is on my name, xianprem.com. The other one is CFit Psychology. That's CFIT, like live the way you see fit, psychology.com.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And if you could put that in the chat so people could also copy that. And thank you so much for bringing forward so much compassion and allowing us this space to drop in as you were providing this other information to us. I really appreciate it. And if you could stick around, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to bring everyone up.
Thank you, Sheila.
Yes, thank you so much. And here we go. And I'm going to, if anyone has a question, if you want to just raise your hand, I'll acknowledge you and you can just ask your question. So do you have any additional question for any of our panelists? Let me go down. Oh, there was one thing. George was wondering if you could explain the word compassion as if you would speak to a 4-year-old child, Xion. You're on mute.
I saw this meme once, and that was just very perfect. There was a little child standing on a piece of paper with lots of hearts drawn on the paper. And the mom said, "What are you doing?" And the little girl said, "I'm sending love to all the monsters in the world."
Oh.
So I think if you just tell children, if they love a teddy bear or a stuffed animal, that's love. That's love right there. And if they hug that stuffed animal, they can send that love across the planet. As simple as that. I don't think we need to explain words. It's more like if you see them in a field of love, which is natural to them, name it in that moment. You could say, "Oh, this is compassion," or you can make up the, like, I don't know, this is a heartfelt moment. That might be more of a children's language, or this is a love moment. And then name it that way, and then rename it when you see them in it. And then if they're not in it, you can go, "Can we go back into that love moment? Do you remember how you felt when you hugged your teddy bear? Can we go in that with the other children now?" So, like, imagine hugging that other child in your own heart, like you hug your teddy bear. So I would do it this way. So, like, see what your child naturally does when it is in that loving moment, name it in that moment, and then remind them.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And while you are speaking, do you have any final words that you would like to leave everyone with?
Practice. It takes over 3,000 repetitions to get something into the body. And which he titles this talk Embodied Transcendence. Just having a transcendent experience is one thing, but if we don't recall it and we re-practice, it becomes a memory eventually, and then it becomes an ego state. But if we keep practicing, so if we can keep practicing self-love and compassion as a daily, like as I said with the child, like, do it for yourself, like go back into the actual experience. So if you have a transcendent experience or the experience of forgiveness and love, keep going back into the experience, recall it on a cellular level.